just so anybody that's not able to make it will be able to um, join in. How to fix mindset. These are all questions that we will be going over as everyone's starting to join in. If you guys don't mind, in the Zoom chat, on TikTok, on Instagram, go ahead and put where you are from, what state you guys are calling in from, because that is going to be something that I'm curious where everyone is calling in from. If you guys have that, I would love to know, as we're letting people join in as well from all different channels. Best hitting drills to stay down. There's obviously some great questions, guys. I appreciate that. We're going to be doing that at the end. We have New Jersey, we have Tennessee, we have Florida, we have California, we got Ohio. Guys, this is awesome, and I am really excited to start in with you guys here today. So today's topic, I just need one person over on Zoom to let me know. Can you guys see this as far as the screen? Because this is going to be what we are talking about. Can you guys see this? Are we good? Just somebody in the chat, if you could put a thumbs up, because that would be awesome. We have New York. We have Canada. Let's go. We got another New York. Let's go, guys. Are we able to see? Okay, we are able to see. Let's go, guys. All right. Well, without waiting any longer, guys, let's get right into it. All right. So this is what to do this summer to have a real shot at playing college baseball. I just want to make sure my screen is all set up for you guys, so it is easiest for me to go through all this. All right, cool. There we go. All right, so this is going to be going over the three-step system to go from being overlooked to landing college offers. And the agenda for today's webinar is really a background of me as a pro player and a D1 athlete. I'm also going to be going over basically, as far as at the end of this, you'll understand exactly what to do for you or your player this summer to get noticed. And I also have a special gift for you guys for a select few that will stay until the end. So a little bit about myself. I have a 6-year professional career with the St. Louis Cardinals, 1 year with the San Diego Padres, 1 World Baseball Classic representing Columbia, 3 years at NC State University where I studied aerospace engineering. And I'm here to share all of that knowledge with you guys here today. So if you guys do have any questions, the Q&A is going to be at the end of this. And what we're also going to cover is some common mistakes high school parents and players make throughout the recruiting process, what's preventing them from taking action, where a lot of families will end up going wrong and make maybe the wrong decision or turning in the wrong direction, or why your player is maybe being overlooked from either his high school coach or maybe his college coach or college coaches, and ultimately how to prevent it, how to stand out, and how to land college scholarships. And first and foremost, what is that hidden truth about college baseball recruiting? So most players don't realize it, that only 7%, if not less, of high school baseball players, all high school baseball players, go on to play all levels of college baseball. Talent is not enough nowadays. You need so much more. You need to have the academics. You need to have the leadership qualities. You have to have the right attitude and mindset. And also, there are 3 critical mistakes that derail most players in high school and their dreams of ever playing in college, which are really the recruiting black hole, the development trap, and the guidance gap. So first and foremost, the recruiting black hole, no responses from college coaches. Maybe your emails that you are sending are going into the void, or maybe you're not even taking action and sending out any emails to college coaches. Your highlight videos never getting watched, or you just don't know if they are watching the videos. Showcases that kind of lead to nothing. They turn into money grabs. I went to plenty when I was in high school. I was just like you or your player guys, in the same shoes as you guys. So we're also going to go over the development trap, right? So basically, below average metrics holding your player back. Ultimately, we need to be able to present something to these college coaches for them to turn their heads and ultimately look at your player. Running times that don't really compete as far as the 60-yard dash time, throwing velocity that doesn't turn heads, and exit velocities that just don't really impress. Your son's really working hard, but he's ultimately plateauing, right? He's not making any progress and he's not seeing any results. And that's when he ultimately feels like he's falling behind those more athletic players. The guidance gap, this is what it looks like for me, right? I was always looking for a guidance counselor. You know how in like high school there's a guidance counselor. I was always looking for a guidance counselor for baseball specifically. So you get a bunch of conflicting advice. There's tons of noise thanks to social media nowadays from multiple different sources, and there's no proven roadmap that you or your son can actually follow. There's also no structure on the accountability that it takes to actually reach that next level. And ultimately that leads to your son like second guessing every decision possible. And that's not going to be great. So what does this impact look like for your son? Out there on the field, less playing time, coaches maybe not trusting him, falling behind competition, and really frustrated at the end of the day, because that's not going to be super fun as well. All right. The mental impact, right? Declining confidence with each setback, constant comparison to teammates. Maybe he's self-doubting his college potential, or maybe he's even feeling like he has to go down a level instead of going D1. Maybe he feels like he has to go D2 or D3, or maybe even JUCO. And maybe your son is, feels like he's letting his whole family down. I remember, what it felt like when going to a bunch of these college camps and showcases, and my family was investing a lot of money, but ultimately I just felt like if I didn't perform, I was letting my parents down since they were investing a lot of money. What are these long-term, consequences ultimately at the end of the day if nothing changes? So again, settling for that lower division program, maybe walking on instead of earning a baseball scholarship, and getting cut from the college team. Guys, if you land a scholarship, that does not guarantee that you'll actually earn a starting spot or be on the team come the spring. So if you have a terrible fall, you could potentially get cut. All right, that is how it works. Your son also could be carrying this like what if question, like throughout his day, throughout his weeks, months, throughout his days in the gym, throughout his cage work. He's just going to consistently think, what if, right? And what if I did this? What if I did that? And that's not going to get him anywhere. Sometimes also watching his teammates succeed while he ultimately is staying stuck. All right, so what is the solution in my opinion? It's really the strategic recruiting, all right? Our proven outreach system, how to get coaches to actually watch your videos and building relationships with players, and that's how we're gonna do it, all right? So with the strategic recruiting, show of hands, anybody on either TikTok, Instagram, or on Zoom, who has actually sent an email to a college coach before? Anybody raise a hand? I'm just curious if there's anybody that has actually done that, and if so, okay, we got a couple on Instagram, a couple on TikTok. Okay, gotcha. Cool, guys. Awesome. So who has actually sent an email? Sorry, that looks like this. Probably maybe more than a few of you guys, because honestly, I receive emails like this from families all the time. It just happens, right? It doesn't look clean. It's very all over the place, and it's just confusing, right? This is where everyone's probably been at a stoplight before where, the power's gone down, and there might be a police officer guiding traffic. This is ultimately when we are sending out these emails, we need to guide the traffic, and we have to do the same. Yes, we have to this summer, guys, because your son's competition, I need to remind you, 7% will go on to play any college baseball, less than 2% will play D1 baseball, and a very small fraction will actually start at that D1 level. So your son's competition, not necessarily young business professionals in a room, right? But this is a room of 100 people. So more than likely, 7 will go play college baseball, two of the 100 will go D1, and maybe 1 will actually start. So again, yes, we have to if we want to have that competitive edge. So that's where in our emails, we do need to guide the traffic to either our profile or a highlight video. So that's kind of draw the question for anyone that's listening as well. Show of hands, who's actually sent an email with a perfect game link or a highlight video inside of that email? Anybody that has actually sent an email to a college coach with, hey, here's a highlight video. Anybody that's done that? Got one on Instagram. I'm pretty sure more than just a few, right? Obviously, this is something that's pretty standardized, right? So let's say a college coach actually clicks on that highlight video. He's actually like raising his hand. He's like, hey, I want to learn more about you, right? So now, show of hands, who is tracking if that college coach is actually opening your emails, or if he's actually clicking on that highlight video or perfect game link? And if you said to yourself that there is absolutely no way of doing that, I'm about to blow your mind, because this is exactly the strategic recruiting that my students use each and every week to send out emails to ensure that they're getting delivered, they're getting clicked on, and they are getting responses from, all right? So in this screenshot, as you can tell, we have a strategy for someone that hasn't opened the email, all right? Obviously, we want to attempt that email as well. We also have a strategy for this coach, an example, right? He responded to one of my students' emails, which is a great response. Obviously, if someone has a college coach has actually opened the email, we have a strategy for that coach as well. And then also, last but not least, if a college coach has clicked on our email, maybe to a highlight video or a perfect game profile, but hasn't responded, yes, without a doubt, 100%, we will have a strategy for that coach as well. So also, guys, just want to give you guys a reminder, we will have a Q&A at the very end of this. Just put the letter Q in the chat on Zoom. If you are on TikTok, you can join in as well, and then on Instagram as well. Just go ahead and ask the question on TikTok and Instagram. If you're on Zoom, put the letter Q. So, are you presenting yourself in a professional way? That's the ultimate goal, right? We want to have that great first impression if we're reaching out to college coaches, and you only get that one first impression. So again, that's what that strategic recruiting process looked like with that proven outreach system, how to get college coaches to actually watch your videos, and ultimately we're building those relationships with those college baseball programs. So next up, what does elite development really look like? So I'm pretty sure a lot of players, and myself included, did the Notes app workout program, right? You find a bunch of YouTube videos, Instagram videos, TikTok videos that you see, you put them onto your own program, you're kind of just winging it because they look cool and they look like, they might benefit you, right? Or, maybe your son is doing a program at a facility or with his high school team, and I applaud you because that is a start in the right direction. But it's ultimately what he's doing in the shadows that's going to shine bright under the lights, everyone, all right? That is probably one of the most important concepts that you need to understand sooner rather than later. And by the way, my high school baseball lifting and skill development at Sarasota High School, one of the top 20 programs in the entire nation, was very intense. It was very demanding, and sometimes it takes that little bit of a sacrifice to do that extra work and finding the time if you truly prioritize playing college baseball just like I did. So I've already heard it from a million different families before. My son doesn't have time to do extra work. Okay, well, if you're not going to prioritize getting that extra work in, your son's probably not going to separate himself for the rest of the competition. And ultimately, my dad used to tell me this when I was younger. If you are doing what everyone else is doing, you better expect to be just as good as everybody else. And that just really stung. And I was not okay with that, and neither is your son. So that's where we're going to be going through elite development with a New York Mets strength and conditioning coach who writes the programs for all of our students. They are baseball specific. There's also video demonstrations, so your son's not going to feel lost in this whole process. We take into account the volume in season. We also take account into the volume of the off season. So this program, yes, you can do it in the summer. You absolutely can do it in the summer, and it's actually preferred because your son's playing, your son has plenty of time, he doesn't have school where he's mixing up all of his time. This is where throughout the week, Monday through Friday, we should have a plan, we should have a focus of what we're trying to achieve, and then that way on the weekends we're able to implement those changes, and hopefully we start to see that development throughout week after week, all right? So again, there's also sprinting programs that New York Mets strength and conditioning coach writes. There's mobility modules to increase that flexibility. So again, guys, that is a piece of the triple play system with the elite development. As far as the professional guidance, this is the mentorship. This is, what professional guidance looks like. These are, obviously just a handful of my students, not an extensive list by any means. These are my guys. These are the guys that I look out for, make sure that they're on the right track for everything. There's also the accountability system with every single week. There's going to be check-ins to make sure that your son is actually on track of where he wants to go. And this is where we are collecting the data as far as seeing these trends for all of our players go up and to the right. This is very, very important to be able to track this data. I studied aerospace engineering. I've always been a science and a math geek, right? This is the stuff that I love to see because I love to see progression. I love to see results. And ultimately, if you're listening to this on Zoom, if you're listening to this on TikTok, you're listening to this on Instagram, you're probably following me because you want results. And ultimately, if you're on a Zoom or if you're considering scheduling a call with me, you're looking for results for your player. And this is the pudding, right? Proof is in the pudding. I think that's the phrase, right? So we ultimately are trying to test and reassess at all times. We're trying to improve, and that focus will change. And by constantly retesting, we're going to reassess, and that eliminates those plateaus that your son is facing. So again, that is the solution of the triple play system, and this is ultimately how it works. It's ultimately just mixing that physical and the mental. It's really a three-step process: what, how, and why. So what is your son doing? As far as a list of program, a list of things to do, that is the what, right? Well, how? We need to have good form when we're doing it to actually see that progress without a doubt, right? So that's where the consistency, we have to have a new set of standards and expectations. That's the how we're doing our movements. But the biggest separator that I've seen throughout my 7 years of professional baseball and 3 years at the D1 level is the why. We need to have this deeper knowledge for your son to become his own best coach. And it's okay to ask the question, why are we doing this? Because ultimately that means your noggin is ahead of the competition as far as your son's. Where is his mind at? Is he thinking about the right things, or is he thinking about going home and playing video games like probably 70% of all high school baseball players are, right? So ultimately, we need to be mentally mature. So as far as the workout programs, this is what a typical workout program looks like. Clickable links, again, video demonstration, so your son never feels lost on how to do anything. There's also video breakdown. This is an example of kind of how it works. There's folders. Your son can submit videos for me to break down. Super easy. Again, the weekly check-ins. All that is very important. And ultimately, it comes down to the consistent feedback loop and congruency, all right? So, yes, you could do in-person hitting 5 or 7 days a week, and that's definitely going to ring you up a pretty high bill. But personalized lifting programs, the recruiting aspect, speed programs, access to a pro as far as not just a hitting coach 1 hour a week, but really that mentorship, right? Understanding what that next step is. Again, guys, what I mentioned earlier, what does that guidance counselor look like for baseball, all right? This is where I believe in this more than anything. And if you have to take away one thing, just remember this. You go into McDonald's and your favorite soda is Dr. Pepper. But instead of getting a full cup of Dr. Pepper, you put a little bit of water, a little bit of Fanta, a little bit of High C, a little bit of Coca-Cola, a little bit of Powerade, a tiny little bit of Dr. Pepper, a little bit of Sprite, again, a little bit of Diet Coke. Can we actually taste our favorite flavor of Dr. Pepper? Probably not, because we're having so much noise, so many different flavors all around us. So this is exactly what you and your son are probably experienced with inexperienced coaches here, there, everywhere, facility owners, hitting coaches, catching coaches, whatever the case may be, assistant high school coach, whatever the case may be. You have so many philosophies, so many things, it's clouding your judgment, and ultimately you like Dr. Pepper, right? This is what I see a lot of families go through. So ultimately, you want to be all on the same place, on the same page, and this is ultimately going to also limit injuries and eliminate confusion for you and your player. It's also going to maximize production, so that way we're not mixing 17 different things each and every day, getting confused, and nothing's actually sticking, right? So again, we're building habits at the Mendoza Baseball Academy with the consistency and the accountability and the responsibility. And this is where ultimately a lot of players will think, what if I don't have enough time to work that much? Unlike in person, my schedule does not impact your guys' schedule whatsoever. The Mendoza Baseball Academy is 100% remote. We even have 2 students in Japan, 2 in Canada. We have 1 in Mexico, and of course all across the United States. So again, my schedule does not impact yours. It's very easy to reschedule a lift. Obviously, the communication aspect is probably one of the most fun from my end, where my students have direct access to me basically 24/7. Of course, I sleep. So if your son has plans of joining into the academy and messaging me at 3 o'clock in the morning, I probably will not be answering. But what are some frequently asked questions? Yes, it is 100% remote. How long is my program? It's 4 months. After that, we can do monthly. We can do something creative. These are just some common questions. How much time is really needed? It really depends, because obviously the volume changes throughout the year and it's molded around your player. So workouts are typically 45 to 60 minutes per workout, and workouts are, depending on the time of the year, 3 to 6 days a week. As far as equipment needed, internet, computer, a place to work out, and 25% of body weight in dumbbells. Can we do this in season? Yes. Can we do this in the summer? Yes. Can we do it in the fall? Yes, 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 and yes, because ultimately baseball doesn't sleep. If you have that dream and goal to play at that next level, the greatest don't wait for the perfect time to start chasing their dreams. Guys, I've been able to play alongside guys like Yadier Molina, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., just to name a few. If these guys wanted to run faster, they wouldn't wait for that perfect time to start running faster. They would start working with a speed coach yesterday, because they understand the impact of delaying that, right? It's not that they're not going to ever run faster or try to run faster. It's really the opposite of taking action and actually chasing your dreams. It's not inaction. Guys, I want you to understand this. It's not inaction is the opposite of action. The opposite of action is delay if you truly want to chase your dreams of playing college baseball and beyond. Are there any other coaches inside the academy? Yes, technically there's that New York Mets strength and conditioning coach, although your son's going to be personally working one-on-one directly with me. Do we offer a guarantee? No, no one can guarantee that anyone can get recruited. If you hear that from anywhere, that is a huge red flag. In my opinion, stay away from those empty promises and false hopes. I will guarantee that if you don't do anything about this, yes, nothing's going to change. And I also will guarantee your son will be in a better place and a better position to play at the next level, both on the field and off. All right. So these are some of my students because I bet you guys are curious. Like, does this dude actually, work with high school athletes? Yes, this is Enzo. He was able to land a college commitment. Nick was able to land a college commitment. Ian landed the commitment. Ty landed the commitment. This was Aiden, who decreased his 60 time from 8.2 down to a 7.08. That's over a full second. Ty, again, he lives in North Dakota and landed a college commitment, which is pretty crazy. JT, he's my boy. He's up in Boston. I just actually posted him a couple days ago. Hit an absolute nuke. He's a 2028. Deadlifting like 430 pounds like it's clockwork, so I love to hear that. And there's obviously a ton of testimonials over on my YouTube channel. There's actually a playlist on all of my testimonials as well. So ultimately, you have to think to yourself, what is this costing you by not having a structured program in place? And as a reminder, what are these, typical D1 players looking like? Arm strength roughly around 90 miles an hour, exit velocity off of the tee at least 95 miles an hour, and your 60 time around 6.7 seconds. So you have to think about this. What is this costing you also on the recruiting side, not having that recruiting strategy in place? Again, do we have that strategy on reaching back out to those schools? So your son really has three options. You could work with us, that'd be awesome. You could work with someone else, and that would be okay as well, because again, you're taking action. I do believe by taking action alone is going to help you and your son get to where they want to go. But you have to think about that, like if you're able to even find someone who's able to offer all three with the physical development, the mental development, and the recruiting guidance. The thing that I don't want anybody listening to this right now do is do nothing at all, because that's not going to help you. It's not going to help your player. It's not going to help anyone, right? So again, what is this costing you and your player by not having a solution in place? It could cost your son's dreams, and they might never come true, and he might live with regret. So again, what's that price your player might be playing? You have to really understand what's the price and the cost. I'm going to say roughly $43,000, because if we average out 4-year college tuition between in-state, out-of-state, and private, it roughly is $175,000. If we multiply that by a 25% scholarship, that's $43,000. But I do want to remind you guys, we are not a recruiting service. We're not a placement service. I am not a middleman networking vehicle for your player. How to earn a baseball scholarship, guys, it's pretty simple. Step number one, be a solid baseball player. And that's exactly what I'm going to help your player do. I'm going to help him maximize his full potential. So what now? Guys, Lightning McQueen here. He's at the fork in the road. Holy cow, what direction should we take? Should we go left? Should we go right? I don't know. So ultimately, if your son is in his freshman year and you're Lightning McQueen, you're in the middle of the United States, you're trying to go from New York all the way to California. You hit a fork in the road, you don't know what to do. So you don't do anything. You just stay at that fork in the road, but your goal is to play college baseball. So you stay at that fork in the road. And then junior year rolls around, we're still not making any progress, so we're just not taking action. Senior year, we hit that panic button, and we realize we haven't even turned on the car to make an action. We haven't taken a single step towards our destination, guys. So again, if we need to get to Los Angeles from New York, right here in this example, we need to take action. It doesn't matter if it's a left or a right, but ultimately the number one way that I will guarantee you'll never get to Los Angeles is simply by not turning on the keys to the car. All right, so what should you do now? If you want to work with me, you can go ahead and book a call to speak with me. We'll walk through your son's situation in a little bit greater detail, and that is exactly what I'm going to help out with, and I'm going to see if I can even potentially help you guys out. I'm going to also put the link in the Zoom chat if you guys are interested in booking a call, because ultimately that is the next step. We need to see if we're even a good fit for each other to even know if I can even help with whatever you guys are looking for. This isn't a cookie cutter program, so this is why it is very essential to see, number one, if I can even help you guys out. Number two, if you guys are even eligible to work with me. And then that way we can go through all the specifics on what my academy has to offer, if it aligns with what you guys are looking for. And then we can talk about those potential next steps. All right. So if you are just curious about my academy, no problems whatsoever. You don't have to book a call directly with me or one of my team members. You can watch a lot of my YouTube videos. But if your son is actually serious and he is a serious baseball player looking to play college baseball, and he is looking to develop his skills through a structured training program, gain confidence in his mental game, and build out that recruiting strategy together, and like I said, guys, that bonus. So bonus, for only the first 3 students who take me up on this, I will personally help write your son's recruiting email together on our onboarding call after enrollment. All right. I will also personally edit his highlight video to make sure it is absolutely spotless for these college coaches. And if he has a great clip of him doing something cool, it doesn't have to happen yesterday or last week, but let's say like little Johnny out there from Wisconsin hit a home run and it looked really good on video, is a great clip. I'll repost him with an asterisk because it has to be like a good quality clip. It can't just be crazy. It can't be shaking all over the place. But if it's a cool clip, I'm not going to repost singles, by the way. I am going to repost him because I love adding fuel to the fire for my students in the exposure, in the recruiting process. All my social media channels have over 500,000 followers with tons of college coaches following us as well. So what to do next? Ultimately, you can go ahead and book a call on my website or on my Instagram bio. And I totally get it, guys. It's not the right time. It's summertime. We're busy. We're doing tournaments. We're traveling all across the United States on the travel ball circuit. But remember, there are more scholarships, and this is more pertaining to like those sophomores, juniors, seniors, right? There are more scholarship opportunities today than there will be tomorrow. All right. So I'm also putting it in the Zoom chat to book a call with me. And again, guys, I really want to emphasize, do today what others won't, so tomorrow you can do what others can't. That is the exact quote that got me to professional baseball. It's also the same exact quote that landed me a scholarship because I had that ingrained in my mind day after day. So like I said, guys, I promised you guys a Q&A at the very end, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Feel free to put a Q in the chat. I do believe I do see the first Q that I see here is Sarah. Sarah, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you can definitely go ahead and ask any questions that you have. I see that you unmuted yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi. I actually have a question because in the beginning of this summer season, my son pulled his hamstring.
Okay.
So he has been out. And he's going into his senior year, so this was like a big summer for him. And he's back, but he's not 100%. He's scared to miss a lot of the tournaments that he's on. He's on a good team. What is your advice, like when something like this happens at kind of a very pivotal time? And also, like, we're just kind of going to continue, like, still reaching out to coaches, but do we tell coaches that? Do we not? Like, if you have any advice on, like, if there's an injury that happens throughout the season.
Yeah. From my little bit of context of understanding where your son's currently at. So first and foremost, like if it's a serious injury, for him to try to play through it could potentially lead to bigger issues, bigger injuries, and that's something that definitely nobody wants. I had 2 broken wrists in my professional career. I tore my adductor, which is in the groin, when I was in pro ball with the Padres. It's never fun taking an elongated period of time away from the game. So that would be my number one concern is, okay, let's grade out, like, how bad is this pulled hamstring? Is it a slight strain? Have we seen a doctor? These are all like the next steps that my mind kind of goes to. As far as communicating with college coaches, that's going to be something completely up to you guys. Obviously, Sarah, if your son is playing in games, I would probably refrain from making it super aware, because if anything, they might just think of him as, okay, he's not being responsible, right? Because at the end of the day, like, this summer is, like you mentioned, Sarah, it's a very critical summer going into your senior year. This is the time to land a college commitment for, coaches to see your son, but at what cost? If it's gonna, tear, I had a grade 3 tear of my adductor. I don't think there's such thing as a grade 3 tear of a hamstring where you pull the absolute muscle off of the bone, because the hamstring is very, very strong. But if there's like a possibility of that happening, we never want that to, take your son out of the game for over, a year or so. That's where my mind goes. As far as communicating with college coaches, I would probably keep it on the down low if he's actually playing. If he's not playing because of the hamstring, that's where it would be okay to acknowledge it. But I would also probably, if the metrics before the hamstring were pretty solid, you don't necessarily have to highlight it in the email as well. That's where there's obviously certain ways that we could go about it, and it doesn't have to be at the forefront.
Okay, and then so because like your advice is awesome, and it's kind of like where we're at, because we did see a doctor and stuff,
Okay.
and so we know exactly it's not too bad, but he took about 4 weeks off, so he's getting back into it now. So my next question then would be, should we? So if they do know about like should he wait longer and just go to recruiting camps then over like these big tournaments? Like right now they're down in Georgia at that big tournament. But what like are we better off going to camps like directly to colleges he's really interested in if the coaches are showing interest, or just trying to do it all? It's a lot. There's just a lot of options out there.
Yeah, and to your point, you can technically, like, that is part of a recruiting strategy. That's one of my favorite questions to ask on like Zoom calls with, players and families is what is your recruiting strategy, right? Because a strategy is going to as many camps and showcases as time and money will allow. Like technically that is a strategy. Is that what I did in high school? Absolutely not. My family could not afford all that travel, but that is a strategy that I see actually a lot of families do with little to no return. So that's where it's really important to have a strategic approach on which camps, which showcases that you're attending, so that way you actually get some level of throughput for those efforts. If we're just going to random camps and showcases that, from personal experience, promised 30 college coaches in attendance and only 2 show up, is that going to be the best use of your guys' time this summer, maybe even in the fall? Possibly not. That is exactly what happened to me. So that's where my academy really aims to help my students learn from my mistakes, learn from my scars, rather than creating your guys' own. So does that answer your question, Sarah?
It does. Thank you very much.
Awesome, absolutely. Thank you for joining in tonight also. iPhone 7, ask what the cost of the program is. So that is really dependent on who your son is. iPhone 7, I don't know even what your name is. I have no idea who your son is. I don't even know if I can help him out. So that's where every single player does come to us at different stages of their high school journey and needs different levels of support. So that's what, again, that Zoom call is for. iPhone 7, if you're still in here. If you are interested in booking a call with you and your son, go ahead and click that booking link in the Zoom chat, or you can just go over to my MendozABaseballAcademy.com website to go ahead and book that in as well. If we have any questions either on Instagram or TikTok that I've missed, go ahead and ask away. I think I saw some. I'm going to go ahead and scroll to them. I throw 82 left-handed as a sophomore. Can I still go D1? So you'd be surprised. If you are a lefty, our Friday night guy at NC State, Brian Brown, he's about 5'10". He weighed about 155 pounds. He threw about 86, 87 miles an hour, nothing super crazy, but he had a disgusting changeup. He was a 3-pitch pitcher. His slider was okay. But his name of the game was command, and he was able to pitch at the highest levels in the ACC against Florida State, against Clemson, against UNC, right? This guy was dominant because he knew how to pitch. He was able to pitch inside. He was able to elevate. He knew how to mix his pitches to make sure that his 86, 87 miles an hour, and I promise you, when I was playing third, it was hilarious sometimes. He would throw like 2 or 3 changeups in a row at like 72 miles an hour. It was a really good pitch, by the way, had a lot of depth. And he would blow 86, 87 by these ACC hitters, and the change of velocity was just incredible. I promise you, if I was in the box against him, which we did have some inner squads, that fastball after a changeup looks like it's 95, right? And this guy's 5'10". He's not a crazy looking athlete or anything like that. So yes, if you're throwing 82 as a sophomore, Joseph, you absolutely have a chance of playing in college. Guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them in either the Instagram chat, in the TikTok chat, in the Zoom chat, and we can go ahead and answer any questions that come through. If everyone has already played D1 baseball and has already played pro baseball, I can end this live on Zoom, TikTok, Instagram right now. It doesn't bother me. My voice is already getting scratchy, so I'll give you guys a second as I drink some water to ask any questions that you guys have about baseball, baseball development, recruiting. You can ask any questions about baseball, my career, anything like that. I do not mind.
I have another question if it's okay.
Yeah, sure. Shoot me.
So what my son's probably like the area that he needs to work on most is his speed.
Mm-hmm.
So do you offer just like a speed program? Because he goes to a facility like that has a really big like program like that you know they work on all that kind of stuff, but he wants to do more stuff on his own. And like you were saying, he'll pull up YouTube stuff, things like that. Do you offer something like that he may like? Can you do bits and pieces like a la carte kind of?
So yeah, and that's been a pretty common question. So as far as like the whole growth of my players, that's where we can't do like subsection here, right? And most commonly it's like, hey, we just want recruiting, right? And that's where typically I'm like, okay, well, where are the metrics at? What are the arm velocity at? What's the exit velocity at? What is the 60 time? So, Sarah, if your son is looking for help on the 60-yard dash, that is an area that we address in the sprinting program written by that New York Mets strength coach. Mixed in with the mobility modules, that is something that I did also in high school and throughout college and pro ball. To decrease my 60 time from like no joke, freshman year, I was incredibly slow. I was running around like a 9.5 second 60. I was able to get that down to like a 7.3 when I was in high school, and my fastest ever 60 was a 6.97. So I was definitely not a blazer by any means, but I constantly improved that throughout time and became that athlete by focusing on it and working on it. So that is an area that I do help, and that's actually one of the key pieces of the onboarding process for all of my students, getting integrated to that consistency. But in short, Sarah, yes, that is an area that I do focus on, but no as far as the a la carte.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We have Nolan Rice. Is a 333 batting average good enough to make a D1? So Nolan, quick input from your end with batting average. So obviously, yes, batting average is important, but at what cost, right? We want to make sure that we're focusing more on the the metrics side of things, because the metrics are way more important than the statistics, right? The statistics meaning batting average, hey, my on base percentage, how many strikeouts did I have throughout the high school season? These are things that don't really matter because they're different levels of high school competition. So you mentioned 333 batting average. Is that good? I want to know what your exit velocity is. I want to know what kind of athlete you are. I want to know how you're getting after it in the gym, maybe how much you're able to squat, things like that, because that tells me a greater story of what's going on as far as you as a baseball player. But great question. How do I get better if I'm scared of hitting the ball with the mental toughness? Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that you will learn over time. It is something that's pretty elementary in my opinion because yes, I was scared of the baseball for a certain period of time, probably until high school, which is where that fear kind of just like flew away, right? That's where once you wear one in the back or in the shoulder or in the hip, you realize, yes, it hurts for like a split second, but then you're going to be okay, right? So don't focus on that too much because that can get your mind away from the real goal, which is ultimately to put a good swing on the pitch. Mentally struggling and not seeing results, need to gain confidence, but don't know how to simplify and clear my head. So Turtle, great question. This is ultimately where we, as some of my students inside my academy, we like to build these mental frameworks to overcome some of these struggles, because at the end of the day, that is what builds success in the game. We have to have a bucket of feels and a bucket of knowledge to understand how the game really works, and that's where for my students, I really want them to elevate their game through the baseball IQ. So that's really understanding the game to a deeper knowledge. In that baseball IQ, that's like the mental development that I focus on inside the triple play. My students go through a pro defense course, which is in a little bit, took bits and pieces from the St. Louis Cardinals handbook that they gave me when I got drafted by them. I like to say it's basically a college course on baseball. This is very valuable stuff that every baseball player, in my opinion, should know. And then also on the understanding of what's going on, Turtle, this is where you want to really understand how to be your own best coach. So you'll go through the velo throwing program and arm care course. That's something that I also provide for my students on the inside as well. So that confidence really comes from you understanding you are on that right path, and that right path is going to deliver the results you're looking for. Armando and Trey, my son is going into 8th grade this fall. playing with the high school prep team, will your program benefit him this early? So yes, Armando, short answer is yes. My cutoff is 8th grade and older to enroll into the academy. If your son is in 7th grade or younger, unfortunately, that's where I would much prefer you guys wait. So if your son is an incoming 8th grader, yes, that is an area as far as a cutoff to simplify your question and to give you that answer. So yes, 8th grade and older. That's where like the 8th graders that have joined in, like I believe I had one 8th grader join in last week. It might have been earlier this week. It's been a little bit of a longer week, but that's where like ideally those 8th graders, they're looking for that edge in the physical development, so that way they have that understanding of what a structured program actually should feel like and look like for their player, so that way when they make that jump into their freshman year into high school baseball, they know what's going on. It's not a shell shock of holy cow, what am I supposed to do. It's like I've been here, I've done that, and then that way that transition into freshman year into high school baseball is that much smoother. Jim, my grandson was a freshman and played varsity high school baseball, and he's now playing for his travel team. Is it too early to play in showcase games? So, showcase games, I think you might be meaning like tournament games, perfect game tournaments, things like that. Showcases are typically just getting your metrics in, just 60-yard dash, infield velocity, arm velocity off the mound, exit velocity, batting practice, things like that. That's what a showcase is. A tournament will include games from the travel ball team. So I don't think it's too early. This is actually a really good time for him to get his knowledge of how to play. I also don't think it's a terrible idea to also focus on his physical development one summer, right? It doesn't have to be a summer, but ideally like a 4-month period of time that we all, like the number one focus is physical development. Because I see it so many times. We play baseball, and we get into this rat race of play, and we never focus on development, right? This is one of the biggest life lessons that I learned when I went to Sarasota High School, because my head coach's son was a San Francisco Giants area scout. And he kept hounding us, guys, you need to stop playing one summer. You guys have played since you were 8 years old, all the way throughout high school. You need to just chill and focus on the gym. Hit the gym hard and physically develop your skills. And that is obviously an area with the workout programs that I offer for my students. So without a doubt, if you want to play travel ball in one summer, that's totally fine. It's definitely not a bad time to play travel ball, get exposure to better competition. But like for me, it was before my junior year, after my sophomore year, where I really took care of the gym. I did two-a-days. I did everything possible. I played very minimal travel ball games with the local travel ball team. It wasn't like a nationally ranked or anything super crazy. It was just like, hey, just to stay fresh, let's just play in like 2 or 3 tournaments, and that was it. But the number one focus was really physically developing, getting my body ready for college baseball. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Only have enough time for like maybe 1 or 2 more questions, guys. I got to run here in a couple of minutes and prepare for my next call. Let's see. Do you coach middle school? No. My mechanics are amazing. That's awesome to hear, man. By sophomore year, what should my exit velocity be off the tee, Nolan? It's hard to say. Exit velocity, you want to be probably at least in the 90s. I know just taking like one of my students who's a freshman, about to be a sophomore, he's up in like high 90s, but he's a killer, so I don't want to give you that false ceiling. But thanks so much for the advice. I'm going to Cooperstown and going to be nabbed. Let's go. That's awesome. When you load, should your back knee move more inside your front knee? Wait, okay. Should your back knee move more inside towards your front knee? Should it stay straight up or should it point out? So ideally, we always want to keep that knee closer to the inside of the ball of our foot. We don't want that knee to sway outside of our pinky toe of our back leg, if that really answers your question, Jaden. A little bit confused on the wording, but I think I understand where you're coming from. But yeah, guys, that is going to wrap things up, guys. I do appreciate you guys taking the time and spending a Thursday night with me. Again, guys, I'm going to go ahead in the Zoom chat. I'm going to put the booking link to schedule a one-on-one call with either myself or one of my team members to see if we're even a potential good fit to work together and what those next steps would ultimately look like, assuming we are a good fit for each other. But I can't stress this enough, guys. You could have been doing anything in the entire world tonight, and you decided to spend some time with me. So I do appreciate anyone that has stuck around either on TikTok, on Instagram, or on Zoom. And I wish you guys the best of night. And good luck with the summer ball tournaments, the games. I know it's a hectic time, but that's where, again, we need to sometimes sit back, relax, understand what is our goal, what is our 30,000 foot, vision on what are we trying to achieve, and do we have that strategy in place to achieve those goals. So with that, I'll let you guys go. Have a good rest of your night, and take care. Peace out, guys.